Alright, so we're now going to start the next phase in our set design project, is doing a set rendering. So set rendering is a drawing of the set from the perspective of if you're sitting in the audience looking up at the stage. So you'd also be called a front rendering. This is the part that sometimes scares students because they're like, oh, I'm not a very good drawer. Don't worry about that. I'm going to show you some tips and tricks to get around feeling like you're not very good at drawing. As long as you can follow straight lines and use a straight edge like the ruler, you'll be fine. But like every other phase in this project, we need to set up our drafting plate. Go to the link in the card to how to set that up. So make sure you have your 1/4 inch border all the way around the page, and then your title block. For this title block, we need it. The name of our play is Curious Savage. The name of this drawing is Set Rendering. Then your name, scale. So previously we've been doing things in 1/4 inch scale. This is the one that's going to change. So you're not going to be in 1/4 inch scale. We're going to try to do this in 1/2 inch scale. So this one's going to be, scale is 1/2 inch equals 1 foot 1 inch. And then date that you complete it, and then the plate title will be 3 of 4. So this will be the 3rd page in our packet when we staple it all together. Before we get started, we need to find the very center of the page. So there's a couple of different ways you can do this. You can measure the length and width of your paper and divide it in 2 to find half, because we're using a 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. Or you can do corner to corner to find the center. So I'm going to do corner to corner. So what I'm going to do is, well, my straight edge is not long enough to reach from corner to corner. I'm going to need to find something else that does reach corner to corner. Oh, that one doesn't either. So let me find... So for this one, I'm just going to use the tape measure because it's what I have right nearby me. So I'm going to run the tape measure from one corner to I'm going to use this tape measure, and I'm going to run it from, line it up with one corner and then the other corner. So I have them aligned, and I know the straight edge of this tape measure is running across from corner to corner. I'm going to come to roughly center. I'm going to eyeball where the center is, and I'm going to draw a little 3-inch line that I know will definitely pass through center. I'm going to do very, very lightly because we don't want this line to show up later. So that's a mistake. You can see I did very, very lightly where it's almost imperceivable on the page. And then I'm going to go on the other corners. So line it up with the top corner, line it up with the bottom corner, And then I'm going to see where my line intersects. Now, because I can see exactly where that line intersects, I don't have to draw as wide of a line. Once again, we want to keep this light because we want to be able to erase it easily. But now that I've basically taken a line from corner to corner, but I only needed the section here in the center drawn, so that's why I didn't actually draw it the full length. That will give me the center. So now at my center point, I can draw a dot. Because that's going to be our vanishing line. And then all this other light lines I can erase. Now we have our dot. We found the very center of our page. And so this is going to be the vanishing point because we're going to do a 1-point perspective drawing. And so we need that vanishing point. The next thing we need is our ground plan from earlier. So we're going to get out plate number 1 of 4, our ground plan. We're going to transfer some points from here to our... So I need to line up the page. So I'm going to tape these two pieces of paper together, but I got to make sure everything's lined up. I'm going to make sure my edges are lined up, and I'm just going to put a couple little pieces of tape to connect them together so that it doesn't shift around. So I now have the page, so if this bottom page moves, the top page moves with it. So when I'm transferring plot points from here to here, I don't get, things don't get mixed up. So the way this goes, we're going to go through our set. We're going to start just with the walls, doors, and get this shape put in. So we're going to find each one of these corners. So we're going to start with our walls here, 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 and here. And we're going to transfer those points up here, straight lines. The way we do that is we take our straight edge. It doesn't have to be a ruler because this part, the measurements don't matter as much. So I'm going to take this point right here. I'm going to line up my straight edge with that point. I'm going to lightly draw on the upper page that straight horizontal line. Now my straight edge was not long enough to go the full length. That's okay because I can always slide it up to get it the rest of the way. And this is a light line, so I'm probably not going to need it to go all the way anyway, but I can kind of extend it out some more. And I know on the camera it's probably hard to see, but it's there. And then I'm just going to go do that for all the other lines. I'm going to come down to this bottom line corner down here. That line started, slide a straight edge up, to get it the rest of it. Now come over to this dot here. Line it up. And then draw our line on the upper page. Try not to draw any of the lines on your bottom page. We're just skipping ahead to the top page. And then come down to this bottom line. Or actually, probably would be better for us to go off the proscenium line instead of the part that's past the proscenium. So let me do that and go correct that on the other one. So I'm going to line up with the proscenium. Make that mark. Because that is as far over as we would be able to be seen. So I'm going to come back over. I had really gone from the line of the wall that goes past the proscenium, but I'm going to actually move it over and do the proscenium because the proscenium wall is the most we would see. But before I draw it, I'm going to erase this other line. And this is one of the reasons we draw in lightly at first, because we can always draw it thicker later. Now, I'll line up the corner of the proscenium arch. Okay, so now I have 4 lines to correspond to 4 main points of the walls. Roughly the proscenium, here, here, and down here. So now we're going to draw in the height of these walls. So since these 2 lines here represent this wall right here that goes straight across, we know the height of this wall, the height of all of our walls, is roughly, for the sake of this drawing, we're going to say it's 8 feet. So I need to measure 4 foot down from the center and 4 foot up to give me 8 feet. Now remember, we're no longer in 1/4 inch scale, so we have to move over to our 1/2 inch scale. I'm going to take the 4 foot, I'm going to put it right at my center vanishing point. I'm going to put a mark at 0, and then I'm going to go down to the 8 foot. So now from the bottom mark to the top mark is 8 feet. I can make a horizontal line that goes across the bottom. And that's the bottom of my wall. And then go up to the 8 foot mark. And now I know I have a 8 foot wall in 1/2 inch scale. Now, the walls to the either side, because these are so we know this is 8 feet, and so I can erase the lines on above and below my horizontal line. Now, because we're doing 1-point perspective, all other horizontal lines that are off to the side are going to all be pointing towards our vanishing point, or that center mark we made. So the top side of this wall has to go from up here somewhere, pointing towards that center point. Which means, because of the forced perspective, this line is going to be longer than 8 feet in 1/4-inch scale. And so we have to account for that. So we can't just come over here and measure 8 feet, because it's going to be different, because we're doing a 1-point perspective. So you take your straight edge. So once again, we don't need to measure at this point. And we're going to line up the center to the top of my 8-foot wall and let it extend out past. So my center, top of my 8-foot wall, and you see it goes off the page. So I can draw that, but I'm going to stop at my border, and so that would just continue. These two lines would meet somewhere up here, and then we'll do the same thing down at the bottom. Now it's most likely it's going to go behind our title block. So once again, line up center at the bottom corner. And sure enough, it does go way down here is where it would meet up with that line. So, but we're going to take it to just before the title block. And then I'm going to finish this straight up and down part to the title block. We don't draw through our title block, because our title block is kind of, the idea is that it's sitting on top of the drawing. Now if we did this in 1/4-inch scale, we would be able to get the full size wall in, but I want us to kind of do this in a larger scale, since you're going to be putting more details into this drawing. Alright, so we're going to come to find our other one. So once again, we line up our vanishing point center with the bottom corner, and this one is going to hit our line. It's going to hit it right there, and then erase everything below where they meet. And then we're going to come to the top, line up our vanishing point to our top corner, and then draw a line up to it meets that line. And there, we now have what already is looking like a one-point perspective of a room. We have our floor, back wall, stage left, and stage right walls. So now we're going to add in our doors off of the two walls. So this is one of those places where you're going to need to know how big you drew your doors. So we're going to come back to our elevation. Oh, I made a mistake on my elevation. I drew my doors the full 8 foot tall of the wall. That's not possible. So I need to fix that before I can do this next part. So I can go measure a door in my house to see what is a normal size door. I'm going to estimate 7 feet for this demonstration. So I'm coming back to my 1/4 inch scale. And making dot at 7 feet on either side. Yeah, that looks more realistic now. And so I need to do the same up here. Again, for this purpose, I'm estimating 7 feet is the height of a door. I don't know if that's a real door height. It just sounds good for this demonstration. Now, you might have done different type of doors on yours. Mine happen to be double doors for that wall. So I need to measure the height of my doors is 7 feet. Now I can't measure on this wall 7 feet up. Back to you. Because it's not going to sit right because of the angle these walls stretch out. So I need to first mark 7 feet on what I know is accurate, this corner. We made it 8 feet, so I'm going to measure up 7 feet, and I'm going to put a little dot, little dash right on the wall right there. And we're going to do that on both sides since I have to take this. I have doors on both sides of the wall. So I have a 7 foot mark on both sides. Now I'm going to come back down to just like we did with the corners of our wall. I'm going to do the outside edges of our door. I'm going to line up my straight edge and take that line. I'm going to do this one up this wall. So I've got it lined up with this upstage corner, and I'm going to draw a light line there. Oh, that went crooked because I did not line up myself better. Come to this corner of the door where it meets the wall. make sure this outside edge line goes a little higher than the first one. So we need to then do the top edge of our door. So we go to our vanishing point, because all horizontal lines on the outside edges need to go to our vanishing point. If this line continued out, it would already give us the bottom of the door, but to find the top of the door, I'm going to line up my center, not with the corner, and not with that line. I'm going to line up to that 7-foot mark we made earlier. So that's going to mean any line I draw across here is going to represent 7 foot. So I can line that up and draw. And so I did not draw this line high enough, so I need to raise it up to meet. And now I can erase any of the extra aside. Now I have a proportional door that would have been 7 feet tall on an 8-foot wall. If I look back at my ground plan, I can see the door swings upstage, so I know my doorknob needs to go on this side. And I'm just going to kind of eyeball something for that. And we're going to do that on the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and make all of my take up. So for this one, because it's a double door, I'm going to need 3 points that extend up to this wall. I'm going to line up. Now, since I already have the bottom wall, I can start my line there, because there's no point in drawing anything down here. And then I can come to, let me do it this way. And then the last corner of that door. I've got my 3 lines started. Come up here and extend them further out. So I did not extend them all the way to the top line, because I know I'm going to be cutting it off at 7 feet like this one. So once again, we're going to line up our straight edge with our vanishing point and our 7-foot mark on this side of this wall. So I have center, my 7-foot mark, and then I'm going to connect all 3 of those lines. And then erase parts that go out. Now, likewise, I'm going to roughly put my doorknobs for the double doors about where we had them over here. Because they are double doors that swing out, my doorknobs are going to be in the center. Alright, so right there you can already see where I have basically drawn out a 1-point perspective of a room. Now we need to add in our window in the center. It's going to be a little trickier because I've got this window seat deal, but it's basically the same process. So I'm going to line up outer corner of my window sill where the wall stops, and I'm going to take that line up. Once again, I'm going to start where the wall is. I'm just going to do a little line for now and we'll come back to it. And I'm going to come to the next joint corner. And I'm going along the outside edge of this shape. We may come back in later to get the inside part, but just for right now, let's get the physical wall parts. I'm going to slide over to that corner. And now I have those. Once again, I'm going to extend those lines to the top of the wall very lightly first. So once we have the exact measurements we need, we'll come back in and darken these lines. Sorry. Okay. So now I have, and you see this vanishing point is not the center of my wall, but it is this because my stage was not centered to the page. So the vanishing point is just a little bit off center of this drawing. We're going to go back to our elevation, and we need to see what was the top height of our window. So top of our actual window was to the floor. It's about 3 feet and 3 inches. We're going to remember that and kind of put it in the back of our mind. So there's a little bit of a snag here. Yes, this wall would be built at 8 feet, but because it's pushed back, to show that it's pushed back, it needs to be actually made a little bit smaller. And so we're actually going to be moving kind of out of proportion. And I'm going to tell you the best way to do this is, for this project, is just eyeball it. Now there are ways of getting this exactly precise, but for an introductory class and project, we're just going to eyeball it. So I'm going, if this is the top of this wall, now I do know of these 4 lines, the 2 on the outside edge, those will actually go all the way to the top, because that is where this wall panel stops and then it starts going in. So I can go ahead and make those walls a little darker and then all the way to the top. We're then going to take them down. So we're going to line it up with our vanishing point. We're going to go down to our next line over. same thing over here. Go from corner to vanishing point lined up, and then draw this short little line. Goes to that. And from the top. Point, vanishing point, lined up, and then draw my line. So now I can come in and erase all the little extras. And look and see how that looks. It's starting to look good. It looks like a hallway or a cut into the wall. And we're going to connect those 2 points across. Now I think this is where we're going to run into some wonkiness, yeah. So because our vanishing point is centered on the page but not centered to our drawing, we're getting a little wonky here. And so that doesn't look realistic. So how do we make that look better? I think the best way to do that is we're just going to have to fudge it a little bit. So we can either move this wall down and change this angle, or we can move this wall, this corner up and change this angle. It doesn't really matter which one you do, just kind of pick one and go. Now, another thing we could have done, and probably would have, no, that still would have. So, because remember, our center of our stage is not the center of this set. And so we've got to adjust for that. I'm thinking I'm going to see what it looks like if I pull this line down and make this straight across. So I'm going to first bring this over, redraw my that, and I'm going to adjust the angle here to just what it looks like it would be it. And so this line will not be truly going to our vanishing point now because we've moved things around a little. But that already looks a lot better. So we're going to need to go do the same thing at the top. Since we left this side as our constant, we're going to do the same up here. We're going to line up to this point and draw across. I'm going to erase the old top line, the old angled line. And then I'm going to extend my vertical line up to that point. And then we're just going to line up these 2 points to get our angle. Like that.
Do you have floss?
No.
Oh, do you know
Probably somewhere, but I don't know where. What do I know what buttons there are?
Do you know where buttons would be?
Not off the top of my head. I can't deal with that right now. I'm trying to record stuff for school. So now that we've adjusted these lines, these angles are no longer properly going to our vanishing line, but it's okay because now it looks proportional, even though to what the rest of the room is doing, even because we just adjusted a smidge over. And that's fine for something like this. If your center of your stage is not the center of the page, that is fine. If we had measured, found what the center of our set was, we could have then brought that line up and moved our center vanishing point to the center of our set. But I think it's best to practice doing things off center, because your perspective drawing or your front rendering, you're wanting it to look like it's going to look on stage. And if your set is off center on the stage, you want to reflect that in your design drawing so that the director knows what they're getting into. Because maybe there's a reason you're off center and maybe there's not. So now we need to measure our height. But like I said, because we've pushed this wall back, it's shrunk a little smaller. So now our measurements are not going to be working quite right. We can try to do like we did before over here, and measure along this wall and then go down. But remember, we're going to be a little off on this side because of we had to change the angle over here. So since this is our constant wall, let's go over here and see if we can make this still work. So the height from the floor to the top of the window was 3 feet 6 inches. That does not look right. Let me double check that. Because I was looking at the wrong. So when I come back to this drawing, I need to make sure I'm using the right scale. So 1/4 inch scale when drawing on this one. From the bottom to the top. 0, so it's 6 feet 6 inches. That sounds much better. And then when I come to this drawing, I switch back over to my 1/2 inch scale. So I'm coming to my wall constant, and I'm going to put 6 foot and a half on that bottom corner. I'm going to come up and make a little dash there. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. And so now, because I know that this is our constant, so this is the one that we're going to have come to the real vanishing point. So I line up my constant wall to my vanishing point, and then draw the line that connects the walls. And then I'm going to come over here, and I'm not going to draw this one yet because remember we had to change this angle. So I am going to come back to this straight edge. I'm going to do just a straight across because since it's a back wall, the horizontal is going to be horizontal on our page. And I'm going to draw that all the way across. And so now I have this point and that point to line up. So it doesn't really matter where the vanishing point is for this wall, because we know this is our slight wonky wall. Now I have the top of the window frame. So we come back to our elevation, and I'm going to now measure the height. Make sure you're back on 1/4 inch because this drawing is in 1/4 inch. I'm going to measure the height of the wall to the bottom of our windows. I'm going to go off of this one. So that was 2 feet. Is that 2 feet 6 or 2 feet 9? That is 2 feet 9 inches. So if I come back to my rendering, I go back to 1/2 inch scale. And I'm going to put 2'9" here and make a mark on my corner. Do the same to the other side. It's a very light little mark. You probably won't see it on the camera, but I can see it on my drawing, and it gives me something to line up to. So we come to our constant wall. Line up the point to the vanishing line, and then connect those walls. And remember, this is our wonky one, so we need to just come straight across. Trying to keep my line mostly straight. And then I'm going to come connect those 2 points. And this is going to be a very shallow point here. And look at that, it's starting to come together. I don't need a whole lot of talent in drawing, I just need to be able to follow the lines. So we got all of our vertical points of the walls from our ground plan and our elevation, and we're just connecting dots basically. So then, now that I've got this window, I need to kind of put in my seat part. So coming back down here, so I have bottom edge of the seat, and once again make those vertical lines go up. There. Then I'm going to come to this next point here. And move over to the other side, get this corner and that corner. So now I've got these 4 lines here to represent the vertical parts of the seat. I'm going to quickly jump back over here and look at my seat and how high up I had it go. So on this drawing, this top line is kind of the top of the cushion of the seat. So once again, this drawing is 1/4 inch scale, so I'm going to my 1/4 inch scale to measure height, and it's 1'9" inches. So from my wall here, I'm going to go set it to 1'9" inches and place a mark. On the other side, 1'9" inches, and that gives me the height of the seat for this. Now, remember, we're doing all of our vanishing lines from our constant wall first. So, oh, actually, I did that wrong. I apologize. That needs to actually be, so, because since the end of this corner of the seat is in line with the wall, we'll measure from here up the 1 foot 9 inches on either side. So making sure I'm on 1/2 inch scale. Since I started my lines along the line that was going across here, I know that the bottom of these 4 lines are even with this corner here. So I can use that to measure up my 1 foot 9 inches and put my little mark. 1 foot 9 inches, little mark. And then once again, we're going to use this side as our constant. I'm going to, from a line, a mark, with vanishing point, draw that line, and then we're going to just do our horizontal lines, which we can come back down here, the bottom, and go from the edge of the wall to the front edge of the seats. And since this line back here that we originally had, we're going to erase it because that's going to be now hidden from view because of the actual seat part. So this is the top angle of the seat. We're going to go across. I'm going to erase some of the hidden lines. Remember, we gotta get wonky with this line here, so we're going to just go straight across. And then we'll just connect those two, whatever that new angle is. So the bottom part here, we're just going to go from this bottom corner to our vanishing point. And where that meets, that's now going to go straight across. And then we're going to take this little angle right here. And then erase excess lines. Now, you might barely be able to see it. This line up here that I did lightly, that was the bottom of our window wall, but since that's behind the seat, we can just go ahead and erase that out. We don't need it. Starting to get a nice little wall going here. So we're going to go from this point to this wall through our, remember, and do the back side of the seat. And this, because it's just going to ride along the back of the wall, and we're just doing straight across, and then connecting these 2 points. And that pretty much gives us our window seat. So I can come back through and I can darken any of these other lines. For the most part, that's our rendering. So we've now drawn a 1-point perspective. Now I would want to go in here and finish all the details. So for instance, I need all these window panes in the windows. And so I would just continue doing kind of the same process I was doing for whatever your window treatment is, just like we did for this. We'll do it for those. The things we're putting on the walls, like the sorry, my brain died for a second. Wainscoting. So wainscoting, just like we did for the height of the doors, I can come in and do for all my other little details. So wainscoting using my 1/4 inch scale on a 1/4 inch drawing. I had it at about 4 feet. So I come to my wall that's a constant using the 1/2 inch scale. And I'm going to measure up 4 foot mark. And mark that along that back straight wall. And then I can go ahead and draw that in. And from there I can do the vertical paneling. Now I have the wainscoting paneling there. I can oh, and I just realized I messed up a little bit. This wall I drew it too short. So somehow when I was making my marks, I got off. So you can see this vertical wall matches up here, but over here supposed to be right there ended up being more over here. And so that now this wall looks short compared to what I had drawn. So if you catch yourself doing that, hopefully you do that on a spot that's easy to fix. And you just go in and you fix it. And then to fix this, I'm just going to do what I did before. It's not a huge difference, but it just feels a little off. So didn't need much, just a little bit here and there. Now I can see what I put on that wall. I put it at the dartboard. And just like with everything else, you kind of measure how far up you had that. I'm going to say the center of my dartboard was about 6 feet up. So I can measure 6 feet up. Put the bullseye, and then I can kind of draw in something way better than that. And that gives the impression of the dartboard. And come over to the other side. And start my and I've got my paneling on that side. I didn't have anything on the wall there. So we know that's the 4 foot mark. And so just like with everything else. Now this one's a little odd because this angle, since this lined up directly with our vanishing point, I can't go from this corner to the vanishing point and draw across, because then I'll show you in our, well, actually no, that does work. I thought it would. So I guess that is what you do. See, sometimes things look like it's not going to work, and then you draw it, and it's like, no, it does work. So I'm going to draw that a little darker now. So I have my vanishing point to the corner of this wall that I know is 4 feet. going to draw that over, skip the door part. That's the wainscoting on that side. And we're going to come to the other side and do the exact same thing. Got our 4-foot mark, line up with our vanishing line. And from there, we can do our vertical paneling. Remember, vertical lines are always vertical. They might just be a little closer together than they would be if you were doing a straight-on drawing of them, because of the go ahead and darken this corner. Go ahead and darken this door. As I'm going through here, parts that I know that are definitely staying where they are, I'm just going ahead and darkening them up. Now that I know I'm not going to have to erase those. So now it's starting to look more and more like a room. And do this same thing, paneling on this side. And if you notice, my paneling on this wall, the lines are a lot closer together because of that angle that gives it the impression of the more spaced out if you were looking at it straight on. And my oval mirror is going to go right here. I'm just going to kind of eyeball this one in. I remember, because of the angle, it's going to be a little bit more squished than if I had drawn it straight on. So just so you can kind of see the difference. A little fatter oval for the straight on picture, a little bit more squished oval on here. Can add my electrical outlet down here. Now you can go in and you can measure like we did for the doors and stuff, or you can just, for this part, I'm just going to eyeball it, and I'm just going to say that I'm going to say I want it to go from here to here and here to here. Draw little circles. So now I've got electrical outlet. And I would do the same over here. Add in my light switch. I'm just going to go about here, verticals, and then there's my light switch, and then I would also add in the picture frames over here. But as you can see, that's pretty much rendering. Now I just need to color this. So I get my color pencils and I can color through everything. Now, this is just a front rendering showing the walls and things on the walls. So it's kind of similar to our elevation. The elevation kind of helped give us the height of things and what's going to be on the walls. You can always continue this with the things you have up against the wall. So for instance, our bookshelf and table, doing the same exact method of taking this outer corner and going straight up with it. I'm just going to add in the bookcase for right now to show you that. I know it's going to go up here roughly, and then bottom corner. Bookcase will go and then since this corner is also visible, I need to kind of draw that in. That's going to be just off from the door, which may be difficult to see. Now, I probably should have not drawn in all these panelings since I'm trying to add in furniture. If I had done those lighter, it would make this erasing part a lot easier. I got carried away, and so now I have more I need to erase. Alright, so I can line up my vanishing line with front bottom edge, line it up to that one. Hang on, let me double check some things. So I line up my vanishing line with the line closest to it of the top corner of the bookshelf. That puts my bookshelf coming down behind there. So now I can erase a lot of this in between. It's kind of behind the shelf. Do the same thing at the top. So I'm assuming I've measured what the top of my bookshelf, what I want it to be. And I would just measure along, since this would be matching this 8-foot wall. But I'm going to eyeball this because I do know I need this to be a really tall shelf. So I'm going to just have it go almost to the top. It's getting kind of wonky, but you kind of get the idea. I'm actually going to fudge that one a little bit and just make it straight across. So now you have kind of a short little bookcase started here, and then just create each shelf going to the vanishing point. And more and more for our room. So you kind of get the idea from here. You can continue this out. You can put whatever other furniture pieces you have against the wall. For putting furniture out in the middle of the room. We're not going to mess with that this time around. We're just going to do a front rendering of the walls and maybe any furniture pieces that are leaning up against the walls, because those are going to be easier to draw in for this kind of intro to rendering. But if you want to try to add in the furniture pieces that are further out in your set, feel free to kind of try that, or get with me in class and we can experiment with the best ways for you to do that, and it's still size-wise look like it's in scale. Alright, now this should get you started. If you have any questions, come ask me in class. And then from here, the next step would be doing the model.